de la musique électronique.
Welcome to the first episode of the Modularfield Aircast. This is more like a pilot series. I did some podcasts in the past, and now I thought it would finally to catch up on this. Having a nice artist talk. And yeah, welcome that you join us, and welcome to my first guest ever on the show, Moxy Matinez from Columbus, Ohio. Hello.
Hey, thank you for having me.
Thank you for joining me on this lovely Sunday.
I am honored to be the first guest. That's fantastic.
You're from Columbus, and to give the listener a general, impression, how is it when you're visiting Columbus? How would it feel?
It's different than most Midwestern cities. A lot of people think that Columbus, Ohio is near Nebraska. Like, we're nowhere near Nebraska. We're like 6 to 7 hours from the East Coast, from Philadelphia. Mm-hmm. So I feel like the general impression is when people show up to Columbus, they're not really sure what to expect because they think they should see cornfields and tractors and the occasional bar. Which maybe 25 years ago, possibly, but with the onset of the things that are happening on the West Coast and things that are happening in New York and the cost of living, I think people are finally realizing that Columbus is a really badass place, not just to live, but to create. We get an influx of about 50 to 75,000 extra people.
Every year?
Every fall. Well, every fall, because Ohio State University is located here, and it's, I think, either the first or second largest public university in the United States. So sometimes summers here can feel a little bit more relaxed and quieter because there's no one on campus. Come middle of August, you have 50,000 students showing up, and it's just explodes with energy. It's just alive and things are happening.
Yes, the vibe is flipping, right?
Oh, totally. Yeah. Mm-hmm. The vibe flips, but it's also, you know, I've lived in Columbus for 20 years. Actually grew up in Cincinnati, which is about 2 hours south of here. And there was nothing happening in Cincinnati really when I was growing up, and kind of similar where people start realizing that there's growth potential. Mm-hmm. And there's the kind of motto amongst the art community here that's Columbus isn't boring, you are. Because where Columbus isn't boring at all. We have so many different genres of, I guess, artistic exploration. And I think if people they get lazy, they don't think anything happens here because it's not coming to them. Like, football games happen every Saturday between September and November. You can count on that. But as far as plays, electronic music shows, DJ sets, like, it's all, you just have to seek it out.
And what is a typical night out in Columbus when you're just, I don't know, I want to go out on a weekend? Where do I start? Where do I go? And where do I end up?
It's a good question. I mean, it really could look different from Monday through Friday. But ultimately, if it's a Friday night, you start at one of our local restaurants and you have, you know, homemade food with really, really great craft beer that is made in Columbus, made and brewed and served in Columbus. You stop off, see one of your friends do an early DJ set somewhere else. You end up either at a warehouse party or typically a club. I'd say most of us follow the parties. The parties are not always housed in the same venue. So ultimately, it's just you go see your buddy, do the early set. You end up at the traveling party till 2 or 3 in the morning. Then ultimately, you get late night pizza at Mikey's Late Night Slice. And then you end up at someone's house and it's 4:30 in the morning and you're hanging out on the porch, processing and revisiting the whole night.
And when you're thinking about in general, is there a more organized club culture, or are there off locations dominating the nightlife?
It's both. Definitely within the past 10 years, the music community, we've lost a lot of our venues because of gentrification. Most of our venues were located in one specific place and close to downtown. And as the money came in, the clubs shut down and became restaurants, became taco places. So we've been forced over the past, I definitely would have to say the past 5 years, to find homes for our specific traveling parties. And there are smaller dedicated clubs that are slowly opening up to be the club to go to. But I think I personally feel that the landscape of kind of club going is not the same as it was 10 years ago. 10 years ago, I literally was DJing every single club in the city. 9 out of 10 of those clubs don't exist anymore. They're restaurants or pizza places or whatever. So I found that like there are more traveling parties that have a dedicated dedicated DJ and audio environment that go from place to place to place around the city. And I think that's great. Sometimes when you have the same party at the same place, it gets a little bit tired. It gets a little dull. And I think changing location really keeps it fresh in it. I think having to do that over the past few years because of all of our clubs shutting down and not reopening, it's created a bit more motivating vibe of people who are interested in seeing what's going on, because it's not like at the same place all the time. And we can't take that for granted anymore. Not like, oh, well, we know what's going to happen the first Saturday of the month at this one specific venue. We don't know anymore. And that kind of keeps it interesting.
One more following up questions maybe on that. Are there also some outdoor parties?
I have noticed that idea of having things kind of DIY outside is becoming a bit more popular. I just became aware of this Sunday afternoon thing called the Bird Tunnel event. And I guess
Let me guess, it's
near my neighborhood.
It's a tunnel.
Yeah, you don't say. Hey. But it's such like a word of mouth thing, and I just became aware of it maybe like 2 months ago, and I thought it's fantastic. And it's kind of like you just quietly show up to this tunnel, and it's outside, and people kind of show up and dance for a few hours, and it's absolutely fantastic. Now, because what I said earlier, the landscape of the city is constantly changing, and buildings are popping up, things are being knocked down to build other things. What's really popular right now is the rooftop bar. That is kind of old news for New York. It's extremely old news for San Francisco and LA because of the weather permits people being outside all of the time.
And it brings me to another question. Maybe what is it just like the general creative environment in Columbus? Is it just like everybody knows everybody, or is it so diverse that you have no idea that there's someone else doing also great stuff, or is it just everybody knows each other?
It's a little bit of both. And I'd have to say, since I entered into the synthesizer community, that idea of everyone knowing everybody has just expanded so much. And I've been a DJ in Columbus, I think, 15 years. And what's really cool is that there are so many different types of musicians here, and we all cross-pollinate with each other. For instance, I write, produce, perform, DJ electronic music, but also non-electronic music, like at art museums and in art galleries. And those types of gigs allow me to network with other different types of musicians. And I've noticed that we all kind of know each other. And when it's when it's time, some people really like to collaborate with other people. And I feel like the environment here in Columbus is very supportive of that, because it's not as cutthroat as it would be in San Francisco or New York. And I noticed, especially when I lived in California, it's very cliquey. Like if people only do experimental music, they only run with people who support and listen to experimental. Whereas I feel with Columbus, you have a conversation with any artist and they will say, oh, I listened to Aretha Franklin yesterday, but I checked out this Aphex Twin the other day. Oh, didn't I see you at the M83 concert? Sure, I think I saw you at the Soft Moon concert. So it's kind of a joke that Columbus is just a big town because everyone knows everyone, but I feel like that is also a benefit, because as new people arrive and as new people move into the city, it's a more of a welcoming environment, because we're just one big, gigantic, huge family. And I feel like we're all out to encourage each other as well as to feel supported by each other. And that's why I think it's, to me, really awesome to see the type of diversity it shows, whether it's a DJ gig or an acoustic set. It's constantly versatile.
So in general, you describe it a little bit like it's a comfy environment to just be an artist.
Yeah, I think you're definitely onto the right track. You know, when I feel very, grateful and super humbled that I've been able to create so many different platforms for myself in Columbus. Like, I started my career as a DJ. I started to write and perform my own music only 5 years ago. And in every step of the way, no matter what the transitional place was and how weird I may have sounded, I always had someone coming up to me saying, "Oh my God, that was so awesome. I really liked this specific part of your set." Or, "What was that one sound at the end?" And it still doesn't matter where I go with my audio creativity. I always feel like there's someone here that sees and values what I do, whether it's live techno or whether it's an live ambient set, or whether it's a knockdown, drag out, midnight to 2 a.m., throw your face into the wall DJ set.
Yeah.
Or it's an afternoon 30-minute vinyl set where I'm playing Joni Mitchell and Sade. Like, I've been able to use Columbus as a guinea pig of sorts, and I feel so appreciative that I have been able to have the career that I've had, because people value my musical brain. And I feel like that also just spreads out into the community, because when people see other people encouraging other people, it's infectious. It's infectious to like see your friends achieve, and it makes you want to work harder, but it also makes you appreciate their grind. And it's this just back and forth inspiration. Like, we all support each other.
Wonderful to hear. And maybe on a more personal note, what keeps you, or what is your main motivation, or general, what's your motivation to make music? Is it some sort of way to express yourself? Is it some way to calm you down? Or is it just a natural thing you do because you do?
I think it's, for me, all of the above. Every single thing that you just said. On a very, very personal note, like, I'm adopted, and not having certain stabilities in my life as a foster kid and as a kid who didn't really have a family for the first few years of my life, music literally kept me alive. Music, everyone that I heard on the radio was my friend. I knew that the people I heard on the radio would always be there in some form or another. So as I grew into an adult who started DJing and started writing my own music, I was able to start telling my own story through my DJ sets. I was able to outlet the frustrations and the confusions and find the right songs to express in those moments how I was feeling. And now with analog synthesizers, I'm able to show up to these machines and create because I'm feeling something inside of me, or create because I just heard something that was very inspiring that clicked something inside of me that I just have to get out. So when I write music, it really depends on the mood. It depends on the motivation. It depends on the information I received that day. It depends on if I'm feeling sensitive and feel like my feelings got hurt. If I'm angry and want to really fuck shit up. Like, it just depends. And I feel I've always been like that since I was a little kid. Like, from the time that I heard Faith by George Michael on the radio and I'm plunking it out on my Casio, all the way up to last week when I hear, I don't know, something on Spotify that activates this inspiration for my live techno set. So it really is situational. Long story short, it's situational. It's kind of everything wrapped up in one.
What I find always interesting, what is some sort of, everybody knows that down days you have no motivation for, I don't know, even taking a shower or something like that, or just you don't want to speak with anybody. Did you experience longer periods where it was really, really hard to create stuff, to create music?
Yes.
Or is it also, I don't know, maybe it's also a way to get out of this situation, to create?
The entire year of 2015. I didn't make anything. Like, everything you just described, that was like my total freak out. I thought that I was just going to take a break for maybe, a week or 2 weeks. Because I'd spent the last 2 years just playing nonstop, playing shows, evolving my craft, trying to find my voice as an electronic music performer and producer. And I don't know. I told myself, I played a show like in mid-January 2015, and I said, okay, I'm feeling a little uncertain as to where to go with my work. I'll just take a break for a couple weeks. No big deal. I'll just give myself a rest. 2 weeks turned into a month. A month turned into, now it's like late springtime and almost summer. And I'm like, this is weird. I haven't really felt anything. And now we're into late fall. Still, like, nothing has happened. Like, I didn't even turn my machines on. And I legit thought that was it. Like, I was freaking out. I even talked to my partner and I said, nothing's happening creatively. I think I might have to go back to school to be a history teacher. Because I hear nothing in my head and I feel nothing. And then, miraculously, I was exposed to the Moog Mother 32 from an Instagram video, and it woke me up. Something switched in my head, and all of a sudden I knew that the next section of my musical life was going to be working with analog synthesizers in a live setting. And I haven't had a blank spot or I guess writer's block.
Yeah.
That badly since then. But I do have days where I don't feel not that I don't feel inspired or motivated to create, but sometimes I'm just not sure where to go, and that is more paralyzing. Because I almost have way too many ideas in my head.
To getting structure into that, yeah.
Yeah, not even sure where to start. So what I've realized, especially with having my synthesizers, if I start to feel overwhelmed and not sure which way to go with an idea, I just simplify. I just use one machine. I don't put any effects on it. I don't go crazy. I just go back to the basics and just show up to this synthesizer as if it were day one, the first time I ever turned it on, and just let it flow. And I find that those are the moments that I end up creating some of the best stuff, because I don't try to activate a definite idea. I just let it flow.
So do you have, speaking of that, certain rituals when you create music, or just when, as we say, Minerva strikes you, when you have that glimpse of inspiration? Or do you have, some musicians that, every day at 8 o'clock, I'm sitting down at my synthesizer, start creating. If something works out, it works out. If not, then yeah, fuck it. Or do you just go with the flow in that point when you start creating?
I tried to have a ritual like that, and I realized that was a bit detrimental to how I naturally work. Inspiration doesn't always come every day at 10 in the morning. I do notice that I work best after my morning coffee because I'm up and I'm motivated. But if I'm out on my bicycle and something strikes me, I'll just fly straight home and just turn everything on. I typically try to keep my monitors on and at least all of my synthesizers turned on, because they have to be warmed up and tuned, but also I want to be ready to make the second that inspiration strikes. Yeah,
I guess it's the most frustrating thing when you have nights. I often make with a friend of mine on the weekend, we make music, and we don't have a strictly set up studio space. And so every time when you go back, you have a minimum of half an hour figuring out to fire everything up, and that is just the right amount of time to kill completely the mood for making music in some sort of
Exactly.
Yeah, it's just like, and exactly. And for me it's just like very, I don't know, I'm freaking out when I can't find the right cable, and I'm getting so upset about that I just don't, I don't know, I go having a cigarette and then just like, do we watch a movie or something like that? I guess it really helps when you get a specified space set up. That's one thing, I don't know, I've watched a Dr. Dre interview and he is like, I got my studio directly into my crib. Yeah, because why? When I wake up, I can go downstairs, everything is there, and I can start making music. And that's what was my point. If you have certain rituals at the day when you sit down, I guess I only know it from other professions, maybe from writers, that they have specific times when you sit down at the desk and start writing.
And you also have to have focus. It takes a certain kind of focus. Sometimes I've worked with people that I'm in the right mindset, like you just mentioned, and we have everything set up, and then all of a sudden the person I'm working with is just fucking around on their phone, or they're just telling stories, and I sometimes I had to look at people and say, hey, we only have like a limited amount of time and I'm losing like motivation here. Can you just put your phone down? Why did you come over here in the first place? That's only happened maybe once or twice in the past 10 years, but you're so right. It has to, it's not like opening an instruction booklet and saying, oh, I'm going to work on drums today. It took me six to 8 hours just to program my drums for a 45-minute set. Like, that's just programming drums. That's not everything else.
That sounds amazing. I can't imagine to just sitting down straight programming drums for 6 hours. It's just like it's a lot, yeah. And maybe for another view on this. On also the artistic or on how to creating stuff like that. I noticed early on that you don't have a Facebook account, that you're really active on Instagram and stuff like that. And do you think, I don't know, in a more positive or even in a negative way, all the social media influencing you as a person or the musical as a general? Is it something like, I don't know, feeling distracted from making music, feeling encouraged or discouraged? I mean, you got this one example that you said you watched that video on Instagram and after that you start creating music again. But at the moment you got the huge discussion coming up, like, with all the likes, it's not real and stuff like that. And you feel, I don't know, maybe you hear something or see something on Instagram and you're feeling discouraged in producing something on your own.
I think social media is a necessary evil. I think especially with Instagram, it can either be helpful or it will destroy you. I've experienced both. I've experienced, oh my God, I see this thing and I throw my phone down and I go upstairs and I start making. And sometimes, I see something on my phone and I could be in a certain mood. I could be feeling sensitive. And I throw my phone down and I say, fuck it. Like, what am I even doing? But I also have to remember that, I deactivated my Facebook over 3 years ago when a very special friend of mine died. Her death really forced me to change my perspective. It forced me to change where I put my energy, especially with social media. It forced me to really reprioritize what I felt was important for me in my art and my music. And that also filtered into my Instagram account, where I realized I could sort of reface my Moxy Martinez profile to work in a positive way for me. And in the way that, like, I'm not going to post really super personal things. I'm just going to post about my music and it's going to be real. And I realized that if I curated the things that I chose to see on Instagram in that same way, things that were inspiring and things that were motivating, and really watching producers and other Modularfield artists and see what they're up to and what they're doing, I find that it's a very cyclic unit of support and encouragement, kind of the same way as I was talking about Columbus.
Yeah.
I think when people get lost in the Facebook and Instagram black holes, it's because they just don't have the priorities maybe that they should have to feel like they can be working on their art rather than comparing themselves to other people's profiles.
And switching the focus to the real world, when it comes to live, would you self-describe you as a maniac, I would say, because you told me before you played so much weekends, and yeah, how about that?
I mean, it's everything, I guess. I mean, I get really nervous, but it's that moment that I do a breakdown and I cut everything and I just have a synthesizer just going, and I hear people cheering, and that makes me just go crazy. It's the element of, I have worked toward this goal for, I would have to say, almost 20 years to be able to play live. And that has to be able to activate that goal and to reach that goal and have a breakthrough. Like, I feel like a maniac every time, because no one taught me how to do this. Like, no one held my hand and showed me how to use my synthesizers. No one showed me how to set up. I did it all myself. Every single time I show up to stage, I feel honored, and I play like it could be my last fucking time, because you just never know.
No, you really don't. You never know.
You just never know.
You never know. No, yeah.
And I feel so, and especially with losing so many friends to death, and they're not here anymore. I feel like I have a certain honor to withhold. To have for them, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. Like, if they were all still here, I know that they would be so super pumped about what I'm doing. So I have this certain energy of, it's not just about me playing. It's about me conveying the stories for my friends who aren't here anymore.
Maybe also to share a little bit of joy to other people.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Totally. That's exactly it. Yeah. To activate their joy through my joy, and just showing up with my synthesizers, and even sound check, I get excited because I get the chance that some other people haven't gotten the chance to have yet. And when I show up to DJ gigs and to play live shows and I hear these artists just bemoaning, oh, I'm so tired. I can't believe this venue tonight. Or, ooh, this sound check sucks. Or they're just bitching and bitching.
They're not grateful at all, yeah.
I just look at them and I say, yo, you woke up today. You showed up here. Pretty sure you have all of your limbs, your sight and your hearing. Be grateful. Like, you need to be grateful that you're fucking doing this right now, because a lot of people would really want to be in your place right now. And it's just like getting that perspective. Like, I don't take any of that for granted because I was invited to play. When people invite me to play, I have to show up and be the most professional and play the best that I can play.
Are you nervous before playing live?
I definitely get nervous. I think I get really, really nervous before I play live because I put so much pressure on myself to not fuck up, to make it perfect. But what is perfect? Perfect is relative.
It's relative. And I guess, sorry to interrupt, I guess also sometimes the same for artists when they play and they say, I fucked. Most of the people won't notice it even that you fucked up on the live set. They just... Oh, I did it by accident. And when do you get the relief? When you start playing music, or is just the relief after you finished your set? Or or are you still nervous when you're going home?
I think it starts to release, I'd say, within 10 to 15 minutes. It's really just the initial, okay, I'm doing this. Okay, and then once I start to get the flow, I just stop thinking about it and I just let it come naturally. And the more that I play live, the more comfortable I am. And the moment that I stop feeling nervous, I know that I've lost it. If I don't feel nervous, I know that I need to just step back, reevaluate, and challenge myself. Because the minute you're not challenged as an artist, you become plateau, stagnant. You don't evolve or grow. So I always keep that in mind. I keep my nervousness in check. And I think nervous is good. That means that you're worried about doing a good job. So it typically, within the first 10 or 15 minutes, once I get everything fired up and I'm like, okay, that's my little warm up. I'm going to go into the next 30 minutes and I'm going to slay this shit.
And can we just appreciate a moment? I don't know. I guess it's also really nice to hear your own music blasting loud on some stereos and like, I guess hearing your own music loud on 10,000 of watts is also a really, really nice thing to just like.
Well, you hear it differently.
Yeah.
I mean, I practice here in my studio, and these are teeny, teeny little monitors. And I noticed, even with the live set I played last week, and I don't remember if I sent you the link, but I can send you the link to that set. Okay. I noticed that I kind of feel more comfortable doing more experimental improv things in the venue setting because I can hear the frequencies very differently. They're way bigger and they're way more like, hey, we are here. So I've noticed that I'm just more comfortable just getting just so crazy on the synthesizers because I can hear every single teeny little frequency and it's just so exciting. I do get a little modest when I practice here because my studio's in my house. My studio is right next to my neighbor's bedroom. My neighbors can hear me. Like, people can hear me practicing. And
she's doing a gig again. Yeah.
Like, oh my God, she's doing that fucking loud shit again. Oh my God. And it's just, there's something about when there is total freedom to be as loud as I want to be. I feel like I can just fly. And nothing's holding me back, and I don't feel modest or sheepish about just fucking getting crazy.
And do you have the urge after playing a gig directly to go back to the studio to improve? on the same night?
Oh, totally.
Yeah, I just can imagine from self-experience that I hear it now that loud. I need to go back. I need to work on it and tweak some knobs and stuff like that.
It's mostly, that's one of the main reasons why I record my sets. And that all started back in 2005 when I started first DJing.
Mm-hmm.
I feel, at least for me, if I listen to the playback, I can, number one, I can feel myself and be like, oh shit, that was awesome. But also too, like, oh yeah, wait, that combination didn't quite work out how I wanted it to work. I'll try something else next time. So it's appreciating my own hard work and really giving myself a pat on the back, but also using it as study material. Like, okay, next time I need to switch those two songs around, or next time I need to maybe not go so crazy on the synthesizer at that point. It's all I use my recordings as a reference point. And also it's motivating. You know, I'll leave a venue and I'll definitely sometimes want to go home and just fix a couple things, but I'm also very physically, emotionally, mentally tired because I put everything on the stage. I left it there.
That's wonderful. And speaking of recording, what will the future behold for you? Are you planning or something? Do you have something in your closet and you want to let it out?
The future is definitely, I think, an energy of both. The more that I play live sets, the more comfortable I feel with activating ideas I've had for years and years. And I feel like those moments will translate into studio. And I'm also digging around and unearthing some material that I've had sitting for a while that, because of the live shows that I've been playing, I feel a bit more confident to hopefully have released within the next 9 months to a year. And
I can see that.
Yeah, I think I think the future looks bright for us, Marcus.
Yeah.
I think
I had the chance to listening to some of the stuff, and I'm really impressed by it. And yeah, I guess, yeah.
Thank you.
I can see it with the 9 months incoming. Yeah.
I think that the future looks bright, and I think it looks like I am going to try to activate some different types of things and maybe, I don't know, start to get some new material ready. I think I'm ready. I don't think I foresee a writer's block anytime soon.
On that note, I guess it's a perfect moment to end on here. And I thank you 1,000 times to hanging around with me at this experiment of the first episode of the Modularfield Aircast. It was an honor to look into, I don't know, maybe the bigger scope of Columbus in its whole, people going there, what is type of parties creating there, and what is your personal sometimes struggle, sometimes joy of making music, playing live, and just sharing it with the world. Thank you very much.
Totally. Yeah, thanks for having me, Marcus. Looking forward to more.